in the medical waste environment, you can see if you go in the mornings walk, you can get some of the medical waste in the street with the municipal waste. So next please. And waste burning incineration. So some of the hospitals have incineration, but we are very lucky to that we have already closed down them. But there is a problem of burning. That when we burn the waste, we do not have a proper incineration. Then it will create a cancer. There is dioxin and France will create from this incineration, and will have a very huge disease burden again we are having. So we are lucky that we have already shut down around 3 to 5 incinerators already shut down from the hospitals. Next please. So you can see we have shut down and we changed to the non-burn technology. In many of the hospitals we have changed to the burn technology and non-burn technology. It means we are not burning this, we are sending them to recycling and recovery of the waste. So we are generating the a lot of injuries they are getting in that. This is a study done in UK and found that a lot of has been found in that way. So same thing is happening in all our countries because they are the same way you are doing. Next please. So you can see the right of the safe working environment with the municipal waste worker. You can see the municipality when they are taking the medical waste in the street, they have to deal with they don't have any protection, so there is no safe working environment. So now we are trying to change that. And next please. So you can see we have been able to save some of the municipal workers. We have been saved them by during the COVID. We have helped them with their insurance. We made the insurance for the 1-year insurance. We give them the personal protective equipment, and so we are trying to make them a safe working environment. Next please. So the right of life and health. It's a question of about the animals, because the animals are in the streets, the cow, the dogs, and they are getting all this the medical waste. They are trying to get it. So this is also a very heavy risk to the animals also. Next please. The plastic problem. Plastic problem you can see everywhere. In the world, plastic is a part of our life. And especially in medical care, there is no medical care without plastic. You cannot imagine that. If you want the blood, if you want to get the blood, you will get a blood bag from PVC, and that PVC goes in our body. And there is, if you want the saline water, everything is in plastic. So we cannot imagine. Next please, next slide please. So you can there are a lot of health impact in that. So this is next please. Even in the plastic, there are 7 types of plastic we know, because and you can see we are eating all the time plastic because we are using single-use plastic, and it goes to health. You can see that hamburger is made of plastic, and someday it's almost like we are eating that. If you calculate all this plastic, microplastic in your body, we are getting plastic in the all our food chain. We are getting plastic in the fish. We are getting plastic in the vegetables. So we are eating plastic. Next please. So there are medical, can see, if you see that these are the list. We have been working in the hospital, so we have been listed down all the plastic used in the hospital sector, and we found there is no life care, no medical care without plastic. Next please. Next slide please. So there are microplastic also available. We can get in Nepal now, because in the Himalayan region we can get in the rivers. You can see in the local candles, pickles, yogurt, all are packaged in the plastic, and we are getting this in our, and that goes to our health, and that goes to our health burden. We have not calculated that. Next please. Next please. So this is a menstrual head. All our female women are having a menstruating, so they are using the pad. No, you cannot imagine that all these menstrual pads have a plastic. So these are the high risk. No one is talking about it. No one is caring about it. This is the right. This is also a question of right. So we have done this study, and we found that all the multinational brand sanitary pads has been in the plastic. There is SAP. There is plastic, microplastic. Next please. So now we are promoting the plastic-free sanitary pads, like made of banana, made of water hyacinth, made of sugarcane, made of the bamboo. So we are bringing this issue to the up. So now, let me tell you one interesting example is that in Nepal, the government has made free sanitary pads for the school kids. And everybody is getting a pad, but all those pads are highly health hazard. And the disease burden will come after 30 years. These women will get the disease burden that time. So we are now fighting for this. We are convincing government So there is so now this is another issue, and just next please. So this is the only way is zero burn, zero body, zero toxic, zero risk, and zero waste. It's the only solution. Thanks to UN that UN has announced March 30 from this year is the first zero waste day. We are going to celebrate it from this year, March 30, 2023. Will be our first zero waste day announced by UN. So we are talking to the government and UN to absorb this. This is a very important point because this is the way plastic we can reduce. This is the way how we can fight with the plastic. Yeah, next please. Yeah, sorry. So this is very interesting thing to see, This is syringes. Can you get a lesson? This is syringes, but this is chocolate selling in the market. Can you imagine? This is life, where is the right, We are talking about human rights. We are making these kids, they are playing with these syringes and getting the chocolate. This is their chocolate. So we have a long fight. We have been working. So thankful that after 2011, after this report, we have been able to do a lot of success in that. We have banned mercury in healthcare. We are fighting with the plastics. We are fighting like these kind of things. Where is the social responsibility of this corporate sector? We produce this chocolate. Can you imagine how we can fight them? We are talking about business here. This, what knowledge they have, they want to do this chocolate for kids. What this kid will learn from that? When he will see any syringe in the hospital, he is going to use that as a chocolate. And you cannot, the price wise, this is much cheaper than the price of syringe. Much cheaper than the price of syringe. It's almost like, because the syringe costs around 5 rupees, the chocolate costs around 5 rupees. Where is the benefit? It's mostly used syringes, they are using it from the hospital. They get the used syringes from the hospital and using them for the chocolate. So this is not one-time plastic. Plastic is going down to the other part of the business. So we need to fight for this, and we are committed to fight for this, and we are very much thankful that you invited us to this forum, because we are alone fighting now. We are fighting together, and we will be win. One day we will be win. Oh, whatever way. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. No, that's okay. I don't think I need a conclusion because all the pictures is super impactful. We see the consumption of plastic in every aspect of our life, even for a woman. We have to really think of that way. I am talking as well. So, but now we know the consumption stage of the plastic. But have you wondered what is the end of this life cycle? How do we deal with the plastic waste? We are really fortunately to have Ms. Suman More, who represents the waste pickers from India. Ms. Suman More has worked as a waste picker for more than 25 years, and she migrated to Pune with her family in a hope of finding work and rebuilding her life. A migrant to entrepreneur to leader of waste pickers, Ms. Suman More has seen an unimaginable transformation. She is one of the first members of Asia's largest informal waste pickers union, PKP, and Suman Thai, fondly called by her fellow waste pickers, has traveled to Kathmandu, South Africa, and Geneva to represent and advocate waste pickers' rights and contribution toward the environment. As a chairperson of SWAT, she is currently representing 3,700 waste pickers from Pune. She will speak in her own language, Marathi, with the translation by Mr. Aditya. I have 3 questions for Ms. Suman More. The first question: what has the journey of waste pickers of Pune been like, and how would you describe the birth of the cooperative SWAT as a just transition? And what is the impact of plastic pollution, and how do you see it affect your work in the future? Because we will have the translation, so I will give Mr. Suman More 10 minutes, including translation. Thank you.
त्यांचे 3 प्रश्न आहे आपल्यासाठी. पहिला आहे की पुण्यातल्या कचरा वेचकांचा प्रवास कसा राहिला आहे, तो पहिला आहे. दुसरा आहे की त्या प्रवासानंतर स्वच्छ या कोऑपरेटिव्ह सहकारी संस्था कशी सुरू झाली, आणि तिसरं आहे की प्लास्टिकचं कचरा वेचकांवर काय परिणाम आहे.
आम्ही आणि दुष्काळ पडला. दुष्काळामध्ये आम्ही पुण्याला आलो. पुण्याला आल्याच्या नंतर मग काय काम करावं ते आम्हाला काही कळत नव्हतं. हाती काय काम करावं, काय कुठून तर जगवायचं आहे, मग कशावर जगवायचं. मग आम्ही पोते उचलले आणि कचरा याचायला सुरुवात केली. मग कचरा, कागद, काचपत्रा याचायला लागलो. पण आम्हाला अनेक प्रश्न त्याच्यामध्ये आम्हाला निर्माण झाले. नागरिकाचा त्रास, पोलिसांचा त्रास, आम्हाला खूप त्रास व्हायला लागला की चोऱ्या करताय म्हणून. आणि आम्ही तर नुसता कचरा याचायचं आणि आम्ही विकून त्याच्यावर आमचं घर चालवायचं. मग आम्ही म्हणलं की आपलं एक माणसाने जर आवाज उठवला तर आपलं कुणी ऐकणार नाही, तर आपण एक सगळेजण मिळून आपण एक संघटित होऊ. म्हणून आम्ही सगळे कचरा याचा गोळा होऊन मग एक संघटित झालो. मग 93 सालामध्ये आम्ही कागद, काचपत्रा, कष्टकरी पंचायती, KKP आम्ही संघटना केली. आणि मग तिथून पुढं मग आमचे काही प्रश्न असतील तर मग ते आम्ही नगरपालिकेमध्ये जाऊन ते आवाज उठवायचो. मग आमचे ते हळूहळू प्रश्न थोडे थोडे सुटत गेले म्हणजे आम्हाला. आणि मग आता तेवढ्यावर थांबायचं नव्हतं आम्हाला की नुसते प्रश्न सुटून उपयोग नाही, की आम्हाला काहीतरी ओळखपत्र पण आम्हाला पाहिजे. मग पालिकेमध्ये जाऊन आम्ही सारखं जाऊन की आम्हाला ओळखपत्र द्या, म्हणजे मग आम्हाला कुणी अडवणार नाही, काही बोलणार नाही. म्हणून मग आम्ही त्यांच्या सगळं बोलून भांडून मोर्चे काढून मग आम्ही ती ओळखपत्र त्यांच्याकडनं आम्ही घेतले. मग आम्हाला ते त्यांनी आम्हाला एक असं ओळखपत्र दिलं आणि मग त्या ओळखपत्रावर मग आम्ही काम करायला लागलो. तर आमच्या 10,000 महिला आहेत आणि ही महिलांची संघटना आहे. याच्यामध्ये पुरुष 30% पुरुष आणि 70% महिला आहेत. तर त्याच्यामुळं महिलांची संघटना आहे आमची ही. काय असं आम्ही काम करत होतो.
इंग्लिशमध्ये करत होते त्यांना. We came to the city of Pune as an after effect of one of the worst famines in the early 70s in the state of Maharashtra. We had no other work and were forced to pick paper, glass, metal from the streets and feed ourselves and our families. We were subject to various forms of harassment from the hands of citizens, from stray animals, people asking us, thinking of us as thieves. If there's a robbery in the area, we would be asked to empty our sacks from our backs, saying that you are the thieves, you must have stolen something. We soon realized that an individual waste picker will be able to go nowhere because she was invisible. So we decided to come together. There were 800 waste pickers initially who came together in the year 1993 and registered ourselves as a trade union called Kailashkhabar Kashtakari Panchayat, which translates to Paper, Glass, Metal Workers Union. We did not stop merely at the registration. One of the first demands that we put forward to the Municipal Corporation of Pune and the Corporation of Pimpri-Chinchwad was to identify us as workers, to give us identity cards. So what she showed all of us here, the red colored identity card, so that is authorized by the Municipal Corporation of Pune, being the first municipality in the country to recognize waste pickers.
स्वच्छमध्ये आम्ही स्वच्छ सहकारी संस्थेमध्ये त्या टायमाला पालिकेनं काढलं की कंटेनर मुक्त करायचं. मग आमच्या रोजगाराचं काय, मग आम्ही कुटुंब कसे चालवायचे. कंटेनर जर काढले तर आम्ही याचायला जायचं कुठं ना, आम्ही पोट भरायचं कसं, लेकरं बाळाला कशी जगवायची हा आम्हाला प्रश्न पडला. मग आम्ही सगळेजणी मिळून मग आम्ही कॉर्पोरेशनशी बोललो की आम्हाला तुम्ही आम्हाला एक संधी द्या की आम्ही 1 वर्षभर दारादारातून कचरा घेऊ आणि वरलं सुकं कचऱ्याचं पण नागरिकाला आम्ही शिकवू आणि त्याच्यामधून तुम्ही आम्हाला काही पगार तुम्हाला आम्ही मागणार नाही, पण आम्ही नागरिकाकडूनच इजरफी घेऊ. असं आम्ही वर्षभर आम्ही ती काम केलं. मग त्यांनी आम्हाला म्हणले तुम्ही ठीक आहे 1 वर्षभर करून बघा. जर मग ते आम्हाला ते केलं तर आम्हाला शक्य झालं. म्हणजे मग आम्हाला ते नागरिक पण पैसे द्यायला लागले महिन्याला, परत वलं सुकं पण करायला लागले. त्याच्यामुळं रस्त्यावर कचरा येत नव्हता. मग कंटेनर थोडे कमी होत गेले. मग त्याच्यामुळं मग आम्हाला मग आमचा 5-5 वर्षाचा करार करून आम्ही आता 15 वर्ष झाले नगरपालिका आमच्यासोबत करार करते आणि मग आम्ही ती काम करतो. तर त्याच्यामुळं आम्ही ढकलगाडीवर काम करतो आणि ढकलगाडीवर काम करण्यामुळं आमचं काय होतं की आम्ही पेट्रोल त्याला लागत नाही, डिझेल लागत नाही, त्याच्यामुळं पर्यावरणाला हानी पोहोचत नाही. त्याच्यामुळं आम्ही काय करतो की आम्ही ढकलगाडीवर कचरा गोळा करतो आणि त्यांच्या दारापर्यंत जातो वला सुका घ्यायला आणि मग ते ओल्या कचऱ्यापासून खत बनवतो, बायोगॅस बनवतो आणि सुका कचरा जे आहे त्याच्यातून जी आम्हाला लागणार आहे ते आम्ही सगळं काढून सिग्रिगेशन करतो. आणि ते आमचे भंगाराची दुकानं 3 आहेत पुण्यामध्ये. आमचे स्वतःचे दुकान आहेत संघटनेचे. आणि मग त्याच्यामध्ये माल नेऊन आम्ही टाकतो ती भंगार आणि मग ते पुन्हा निर्मितीला पाठवतो. आणि न लागणारं जे इकरीचा माल नसेल तर तो फक्त रॅम्पवर म्हणजे 70% तर इकण्यात जातो पुन्हा निर्मितीला आणि 30% फक्त रॅम्पला जातो कचरा आमचा.
In the early 2000s, the laws of the country mandated the disappearance of the dustbins around the streets. The city wanted to get rid of the dustbins at the dump yards, which was our place of work initially. We would get into those dustbins and collect all the recyclables. So we realized that the city is transitioning, the sector is transitioning. So our trade union went and bargained with the municipal corporation, saying that you let the trade union try and prove a door-to-door waste collection model. We were 1,000 waste pickers back then. So the municipal corporation in 2005 allowed the KKP trade union to collect door-to-door waste. So we collected waste from 1,000 households initially, and we were successful in doing so. The municipal corporation in 2007 allowed the formation of a cooperative called Swachh, which is solid waste collection and handling. It's India's largest wholly owned cooperative of waste pickers. She's currently the president of the cooperative. She's saying that because of us, we are able to divert most of the materials away from the landfill. We use push carts, which are non-motorized vehicles. Our cooperative has 70% women. So more informal women have been retained, have been able to work still in the cooperative. The cooperative is very flexible and allows for older people also to work as opposed to a contract-based model, which would prefer younger men and displaced women. We did not just stop at collecting waste from the households. We moved on to work as entrepreneurs. So she's saying that we started 3 scrap shops of our own, where waste pickers manage, run the scrap shops as entrepreneurs and look at collection of waste, selling it to further aggregators and recyclers. So there are 3 such shops in the city. We have also been able to teach the citizens how to segregate, because in the contract-based model, the mixed waste is collected by the contractors. Because of our efforts of the last 20-15 years, we've been able to establish a relationship with the citizens who now segregate wet and dry waste and give us both separately. The wet waste, we try and compost it in-house or in our biogas plants. The dry waste is further categorized, whatever is recyclable, so plastics then again categorized into 35 different categories depending on the color. So these 7 are according to the industry standards. They set informal waste pickers sorted further. And in this model, this is a unique model which allows for more jobs for waste pickers and less waste going into the landfill.
And the need for states, businesses, and civil society, all of us, to be working together to ensure that those rights are being fully protected and respected. And clearly, when it comes to the question of just transition, this is an area where already in the plenary and again in this session, we've been reminded that just transition is not possible if human rights is not being respected. At the heart of a just transition is fairness, is equity, is the responsibility to assure that all those who stand to be impacted are being given voice and also being listened to. I really am appreciative to the speakers on this session for raising to our attention the very important and urgent issue of plastics pollution. It's clear that awareness of plastics pollution and the plastics life cycle are central to the question of just transition, and it's also still the case that when it comes to the accessibility of information on plastics pollution and the plastics life cycle, there is a lot more that we need to be doing in terms of raising not only just awareness, but also enhancing accessibility of related information. I think the Special Rapporteur on Toxics and Human Rights has made this point very cogently in saying that as humans, we are all eating, drinking, and breathing plastics. And so, again, this has already been emphasized by the speakers on the session that all stages of the plastic life cycle affect human rights. And this is not just about environmental pollution, even though issues like microplastics contamination in Mount Everest, as one of the people on the floor highlighted to us earlier, is a certain concern. It is the case that this is an issue that is global in nature and one that impacts all of us in a very personal way. And I'm also grateful that the session has highlighted the integral role of waste pickers in all of this. They are, as has already been noted, responsible for up to 60% of recycling of all plastics globally, and yet they are doing the work that most of us would shy away from. Despite their service, they are still being subject to exploitation, to discrimination, to real damage to their health, and are often forgotten when it comes to development and ensuring human rights. I know, of course, that I really need to wrap up. I have so many more things to comment on. But allow me just to really emphasize that there is a real opportunity here for businesses, for governments, to come together to ensure that the informality of the waste sector is addressed, that the human rights of waste pickers are addressed, and that we are all provided with the information necessary to make informed decisions of the consumption that is contributing to the global plastics pollution problem. I also appreciate the attention that's been given it by the floor to the issue of inequity between the global north and global south. This is an issue that can't be addressed in the next couple of minutes, but it is important that we need to be mindful of how the global trade in plastics is affecting global south countries in a very real way. So again, thank you very much to all of you for raising this important issue. I hope again that we can continue this discussion.
Then happy to invite Mr. Chair H.M. Mustafiz, Chairman of Standing Committee on Sustainability at DGEA. And finally, Mr. C.H. Akhil, Migrant Forum Asia. So many people in this room this afternoon, in this last session of this fourth forum, South Asia Forum on Business and Human Rights. This is indeed an excellent sign, I think, and a good indicator of how year after year the topic of business and human rights is gaining momentum. 3 days, past days, have once again provided opportunities to discuss several relevant topics and some burning issues about business and human rights. This was also an opportunity to share. So no doubt that if we consider the growing interest of citizens and of course international organizations, to name a few, this is hopefully and will further shape the debate about international development in the coming years. Panelists in this session, I would like, without any further ado, give us his final remark and closing remark. Sir, the floor is yours.
Distinguished representative from development partners, for your meaningful participation in this forum, contributions and consultations to make this event success. I am confident that these 3 days discussion have enlightened rich participation and the insightful discussions on various of thematic areas, issues with business and human rights, which would contribute further to implement the United Nations guiding principle on business and human rights. I am also delighted to see the commitment of stakeholders from the public side and the private sectors and from the civil society, human rights institution experts, UN and development partners, and the eminent members from academia. And I am sure that discussion and the different thematic issues such as migrants, workers, labor rights, gender, indigenous people rights, women rights, due diligence, role of governments, etc., has paved the way for better engagement and commitment for our needful actions to embrace from our respected Chief Secretary of the Government of Nepal and my other colleagues that the Government of Nepal of the National Action Plan. Nepal has already shown its commitment towards the 7 big convention and the state party of dozens of duties and the large numbers of robust labor laws, consumer and environment protection laws, gender empowerment and the non-discrimination laws, business and human rights issues. All human rights commitments. It could be possible if there is a close coordination, complementarity and the cooperation among the different government and the non-government stakeholders. One of the key learning from all of our presentations and the sharing is working on silence may not solve the purpose. We all need to work together to achieve the expected results. The holistic and the integrated approach to work on such multifaceted issues on the business and human rights could really contribute and make change in the field of the people. Prevent further environmental degradations, promote women's empowerment and the gender equality. No one is left behind in our collective pursuit for and the stakeholder to ensure successful implementation.
So this is a very well noted. Thank you so much for your support. I now would like to
be followed by them, which are they should comply all acts, rules and procedure. Take clearance from Environment Department. Untreated effluent must not be discharged into environment. Necessary safety measures have to be taken and ensured as per Factory Act. Necessary firefighting arrangements must be taken with all required equipment as per the Firefighting Act. Arrangements have to be taken to preserve rainwater to reduce pressure on groundwater, and following facilities shall have to be provided by the factories: daycare center, maternity leave, low-cost safe housing facilities for low-paid female workers, equal pay and allowances for female and male workers, low-price canteen, enact rule of conduct to create a healthy working environment for female and male workers. Plan, preparedness and arrangements with necessary resources will have to be instantly available in the factory premises to manage all types of disasters and accidents. But to monitor all these requisites have to be in place. Our Honorable Prime Minister has recently instructed to inspect all industries for taking measures to make them safe. She has given the responsibility of conducting the inspection to Bangladesh Investment Development Authority under the leadership of the Honorable Advisor to the HBM for Private Industry and Investment. BIDA, along with all relevant stakeholders, public and private stakeholders, identified 46,000 industries except the RNG. In second phase, 10,000 more factories will be inspected. One or two change makers or leaders or agency cannot bring transformational change. What I understand from the
and respected. Here are some steps that has to be taken. First of all, we need to conduct human rights impact assessments. The industry should conduct regular assessments of our operations and supply chains to identify any potential human rights risks and impacts and take measures to mitigate them. And then secondly, engage with stakeholders. Engage with workers, labor unions, NGOs and other stakeholders to understand our concerns and expectations and incorporate our feedback into decision-making process. Thirdly, implement and enforce code of conduct. Develop and enforce a code of conduct that sets out the minimum standards of human rights, including labor rights, health and safety, and environmental practices. The code of conduct should be communicated clearly to all workers and suppliers. Fourthly, provide training and capacity building. provide training and capacity building programs to workers and managers on human rights issues, including how to identify and report human rights violations. And fifthly, implement grievance mechanism. Develop and implement effective grievance mechanisms that allow workers to report any violations of the human rights without a fear, retaliation, and ensure that compliance are investigated and remediated in a timely and effective manner.
Because it's not just about shrinking the civic space, it's also about replacing the civil societies with the organizations that serve the interests of the government, maybe pro-government, etc. So it's important to make sure that forums like this should make sure that the CSOs who work on the ground, the grassroots level organizations, are very much part of the effort. Secondly, I would like to focus on the need to recognize the social movements. For the last 3 days, throughout the discussions, I've identified that forum recognize the labor movements to a certain extent by bringing together trade unions and grassroots labor organizations. But considering the increase in number of or the influence of the social movements in the region, it's important to accommodate the social movements as part of such forums, because social forums could actually expose or bring out the certain violations at the government, private sector, and business level. So it's important to think on that line also. And thirdly, it's important to think about we have been discussing about larger solidarity, and there are calls for larger solidarity of workers, avenues for the CSOs, and obviously for trade unions also. So it's important to have a collective solidarity and collaboration at grassroots level, at local level, national and regional level also, to ensure that there is much more space for advocacy for the CSOs. And finally, and most importantly, I would like to focus on the data. It has been a cross-cutting theme across the sessions, and we have been discussing about the importance of data. But we should specifically focus on ensuring reliable and comparable and accessible human rights data. So there should be specific discussions and focus on ensuring accessible and reliable human rights data.
Mr. Akhil, for again your insight from the CSO perspective, particularly mentioning, of course, which is something which is a great concern, the issue of insecurity and threat on human rights defenders, not only in this part of the world, but certainly elsewhere as well. And this is absolutely something that is, let's say, among the main concern when it comes to make human rights, business and human rights agenda.
And how the world seems to be looking a bit grimmer every 6 months. But we also heard about the many good initiatives, the experiences that are taking place in the region and outside, so that we can tackle these issues together. We also know that while many solutions are being put in place, we know that many are still being left behind. Women, youth, indigenous groups, people with disabilities, and many other disenfranchised and more vulnerable groups are still not enjoying the fruits of economic growth and accessing their full and exercising their human rights. Thinking that we are in the end of the day, I will not go into all the many critical actions that we must take to ensure that the agenda for business and human rights is advancing in South Asia. But if you allow me, I want to share, and this must be aligned with international labor standards and the broad framework of international law for human rights. And we also need greater emphasis in implementing these commitments and these policies and these actions. We also need to make sure that our actions are protecting workers wherever they are and independently of the type of contract that they are in. We need to protect workers throughout all the stages of the migration cycle, starting from fair recruitment practices all the way to support for their reintegration when they return to their home countries. We also need an integrated approach towards formalization. With such complex issue, not one solution will suffice, and we need to make sure that solutions being put in place are addressing multiple drivers of informality, while formalizing jobs and businesses, supporting more inclusive growth, and creating decent work for all.
So let us all build on this strength and continue this work in unity and collaboration. Now, a lot really was discussed in the past 3 days, and I would like to highlight just a few key takeaways for us to explore the way ahead in protecting and respecting the rights of migrants. Now, first, I think that we really need more evidence-informed, migrant-inclusive actions and programs, policies to support migrants and ensure that we can address the challenges they face. We had many discussions in different sessions looking at, for example, unethical, unfair recruitment, high recruitment fees charged to migrant workers, wage theft, no access to justice or remedy, working conditions that are not decent. How can we address this jointly together? Even we discussed about the impact of climate change, how that's likely going to lead to more mobility, but also to increased vulnerability. Second takeaway is, and that came across also out of the many comments you shared as participants, women migrants, and putting them also at the center of our responses. We cannot work on this alone. We need governments to protect human rights of migrant workers. We need businesses to respect those rights. We definitely need the support of employers, trade unions, civil society. I think one of the previous speakers mentioned that we all have to be a change maker. Good practices, challenges across, a big range of stakeholders. So I really encourage all of you to
can and should be questioned, we heard, as should the underlying structural and systemic causes of migrants' vulnerability. We were reminded it is an intersectional phenomenon. It reaches into societies of origin, transit, and destination, but with profound human rights impacts. As we celebrated the International Day on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination this week, discussions at this forum highlighted that gendered, race-based, and class-based discriminations, unequal treatment because migrants live in poverty or because they come from minorities, are the everyday reality for migrant workers from and in South Asia. Finally, we discussed emerging issues on the future of migration in the region, including in the context of climate change. We know, and indeed the recent IPCC report has confirmed, that people are already being forced to move away from their homes as a result of sudden and slow onset climate change. Yet in the absence of rights-based responses to this movement, there is a risk of not adaptation but maladaptation and cascading vulnerability as people move both within their countries and across borders. We heard from stakeholders that a just transition should be grounded in a human rights.
The photographers who've been working very hard, and all of the hotel staff who have made our time here memorable. And of course, thank you also to Nepal for your hospitality and for ensuring the safe passage of all of us home. In reflecting on the forum, it is of course important for us to learn and to ensure that next year's forum improves upon what has happened over the course of the past 3 days. And so I think it is important as we go home that we reflect on who have we missed, who should be here in this room but is not, and similarly on the panels, who are we missing? Who are we not hearing from enough? And I think already I've seen how for next year, perhaps there should be a panel on persons with disabilities, noting that we have had colleagues in the room who represent that group, but who have had not had the chance to be here on the stage with us. I think a former colleague also previously mentioned LGBTQI+ people to hear about their intersectional experiences. And of course, we can always hear more from victims of business-related human rights abuses as well. That being said, of course, we also need to constantly hear more from governments, from businesses, to hear of their commitments to the business and human rights agenda. one of the key takeaways that I will be bringing with me is that, in the same way that we cannot calculate the cost of human life, human rights are not negotiable.
And the final point is that there's been a lot of success and work around the ratification, ratifying the human rights instruments and conventions. The real work is around implementation of these provisions or entitlements even. And certainly I know I speak on behalf of my UN colleagues as well when I say that the UN, regardless of the agencies, we stand by to support that work of implementing with policy advice, with execution support, and generally with being close to the vision of governments throughout South Asia and beyond for truly sustainable development, which increasingly includes a human rights element to it. So with this, I really just have, as a task, I have the task to thank our supporters, the partners without whom the forum could not have taken place, particularly Sweden, Switzerland, Japan, Norway, Germany, and the European Union for their financial contributions. And certainly, I want to thank my colleagues from and the speakers before me for their partnerships, that they've supported the forum with, that's the ILO, the International Organization for Migration, the Office of the High Commission for Human Rights, and the UN Working Group on Business and Human Rights. And then there's another 40+ partners, of course, who've come together to make this possible. And finally, I just want to thank you all for being the participants, for bringing your experience, your vibrancy, your diversity today to this forum. I think it was really seminal. It's the 4th forum, but I still think it was seminal, and it gets better every time. And one final word of thanks to the organizing committee and team, Harpreet, and Kevin, and Amy, and I think I'm missing some, but I want to thank you all for all the hard work you did to make this possible. It's been a pleasure as UNDP Nepal to also be part of that effort and to support.
Very, very, very intense but productive 3 days of forum. Before we close, I would like to invite Harpreet give us some final.
I just thank you very much. I just do want to take this opportunity to thank a lot of people, whom we have seen sometimes in the room, but these were all the invisible workers, I think, whom we have not seen in the organizing forum. So I really wanted to say a big thank you to Jamna Studio, Ranuk, Mahesh, Ayush, and the team for the videos, the photos. The Flickr links are still outside, so please go out and you can get access to all the photos for the forum. From the last day, I think today we will also be able to upload, and you should be able to access it tomorrow. So thank you, and can we have a huge round of applause for them having been working overnight for this. Here at the back, but thank you so much. Bana, very much, Tekji, and the team. The hotel staff, actually, all the amazing food that we've been eating, and this arrangement, and for them to come each session replacing glasses, making sure our rooms are done and we're all taken care of. So thank you, the hotel staff, and just really do want to thank them for hosting us. And I couldn't have done this without Amy and Kevin. So Amy and Kevin, can you please stand up? And I have a big, big thank you, everyone. I hope you have a good evening, and thank you for staying back. Thank you.